Hello, Randy.
Hello. How are you?
I love that picture.
Yeah, it is a great picture, isn't it?
I also like the idea of showing the logo for the library.
Yeah. There's some great art that came out of that time. It's a mid-century modern, they call it now, right?
No, but I was talking about before you came on, you had the South Brunswick Library logo.
Oh yeah, that's part of
It's
Zoom.
a nice
Yeah,
way of branding it. This is the work of the library.
yeah. It's good because people, like you said, it's a good branding thing. I'm just letting people in here.
How many we got?
We got 31 so far, so we're doing pretty good. And I see Ed's out there too, so we're doing all right. I'm gonna let it go a couple more minutes. It's only 6:31 officially, so
I'm gonna go mute.
What's that?
I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay.
Randy, I'm here.
Okay, Ed, how you doing?
Pretty good. How can you see me? You said you saw that I was here.
I could see your blank. I know it's 1732 asterisk, and it ends with 635. So I know that's you.
Oh, okay.
That's
I got scared for a minute because I'm just on a home phone here. I didn't realize that.
You're wearing a baseball hat, right? Are you wearing a baseball hat?
No, I'm wearing actually very little hair on the top of my head. And that's one reason why I'm not on the visual part of it.
Yeah, I'm catching up to you.
Yeah, we're all getting there, long in the tooth.
But yeah, we got a good crowd, it looks like here. And like I said, it's only 6:32. So I like to give it a couple more minutes, just in case, so we don't have to. Yeah,
Randy, what I'd like to do is ask the people who are on board, are there any Kendall Park residents attending this meeting?
Any Kendall Parkers out there?
Yes, me. I've been here 41 years.
And
is that you, Donna? Great.
Mm-hmm.
And Donna, you said that you had a friend that was one of the original Kendall Parkers, right?
Yeah, her name was Shen. Did you send her the email or?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I haven't talked to her since, but she said she was interested, and she does go on to the computer. So I don't know. I haven't really talked to her.
Yes, this is Jyotsna, and I have.
Okay, we broke up a little bit there.
Okay, and I have been resident of South Brunswick for 50 years.
Wow. Wow. What was your name again?
72.
Wow, 52 years. So you were almost one of the originals.
Well, that's 49 years. I'm just saying.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Ken and Liz Mitchell here. We've been here for 49 years, since 1973.
Wow. That's great. So you'll have things to share, I'm sure.
Maybe. We'll see.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here for almost 49 years also, 1973.
Wow.
But I'm not in the original Kendall Park. My mailing address is Kendall Park, but I'm closer to the North Brunswick side of South Brunswick.
Okay.
So it's not really the original Kendall Park.
Yeah, but that's a long time. That's great.
Yeah. I was actually going to call, you know what, I didn't think of it, to call Gilda Gildenberg. She used to live in the old Kendall Park. Maybe she's available. I don't know whether she's an original owner, but she probably was.
Yeah. Randy, the original Kendall Park settlers were called the Kendall Park Pioneers. And Gilda was one of the pioneers.
She was one of them, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we were trying to contact her, right, Randy?
Yeah, well, I think her son, Doug, I think he knew about this, so I didn't specifically say
My son works at the library.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Doug works here.
Hey, Randy.
I'm original Kendall Park owner also.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I now live in Monmouth Junction.
Okay, so now you're in Monmouth Junction. And who is this?
What?
Arlene, you're off.
Oh, Arlie, hey, I remember you. Did you know, you knew Don Stern, right? Are you're a neighbor of Don Stern's?
Of who?
Don.
Don.
Yes.
I remember, I interviewed Don and we took pictures, you know, and we had
Gilda?
He
Of
went
his
to
room.
his home and
I just got on to the
He's on the phone with Hilda.
Society Zoom, and it's talking about the birth of Kendall Park and the original owners.
She's
Should I
talking.
have them send you a link, or can I send you the link on email? Okay, I'm gonna send it to you right now, okay? And then just go in. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
That's great.
Hey, Randy, Randy,
Yeah.
it's John,
John.
Randy and
It's-
Ed, are there any?
Randy, wait, can I interrupt? I just spoke to Gilda Gildenberg.
Yeah.
So can you send her the link, or I'll send her the link and
You
she'll
can
come
send her the
on?
link. It'd be a little bit harder for
why
me to
is
send
why
it
is
'cause I got
Gilda
this-
so important?
because she's original.
She's an original. Okay, I'll send her the link. And could you look for her?
Yeah, it'll come up here. It'll come up on my screen.
Okay, I'm sending it to her right now.
All right, thank you.
Randy,
And the
get-
confusion is that
Randy
there's a
and Ed.
Kendall Park post office and then there's a Kendall Park development. You have to make, you have to distinguish between the two.
Okay.
Randy,
Okay, John, what were you?
Randy, can I have 10 seconds?
Wait,
Yeah,
I think
sure.
wait, did I lose this thing? I think I lost the meeting.
No, you're here. Go ahead, John, though. What were you going to say?
I don't know where I am.
When you provide the overview of Kendall Park, is there any way you can somehow incorporate the old homes that still exist, that pre-Kendall Park?
You will be doing that first. And as a matter of
Yeah,
fact, we'll be
'cause they're-
starting that.
Yeah, because they were, it was probably farmland, or some of those old homes date back to the 1800s.
Yeah, we'll be doing that first. It's funny you mentioned it. But I think now is a good time because we're almost 10 minutes in. So hopefully Gilda will come in and we'll catch her up. And so Ed, if you want to start, I'm going to start off with the old homes, just like John was mentioning, the existing homes in Kendall Park.
Okay, Randy, that sounds good. So I'll get started right now. You're all set?
I'm all set, and we'll just go over to we're going to go over to the pictures of the houses.
Okay. It sounds like we have an audience that's excited and interested in the subject, and that's really great. And it's also great to have several people who have spent several years in Kendall Park. I did mention in a previous meeting the initials BKP because as a historian and looking at South Brunswick Township, one would have to say that the most dramatic event in South Brunswick history was the birth of Kendall Park. It made for a transition from a rural community to a suburban community in actually time that was less than a decade. Some writers have indicated that when Kendall Park was created, it was called a sub-suburb. So those initial years, we were in that transition from rural to suburban. And as I say, the most dramatic event. Now, Randy's showing you the original houses that were there, and they were few and far between. As one of the things that Herbert J. Kendall, that's his full name, we know him as Herb Kendall, and his name, of course, was put on the area, and that's where the name Kendall Park came from. This all started documentary-wise, November 15th, 1955, when Herb Kendall and Warren Willentz went in front of the township leaders with two plans. What Herb Kendall wanted to do was create some housing that veterans could afford, people from the city looking for the countryside to live and open up that potential. He had two plans which he presented. One was 382 houses on 100 feet by 200 feet lots. The other one was 520 houses with a promise of a water and sewer plant. The township leaders didn't like either plan and told them to come back in a month's time and they'll consider it. But the main thing they were worried about was all these new people coming into the area, who's going to pay for schools and the tax base without the industry? How are you going to balance that? So they were very worried and concerned that this was too much, too fast for this area of South Brunswick. Now, on December 19th, 1955, the idea of the lot sizes was kept, and the promise by Mr. Kendall to build a school on 8 acres of property went over well, and the promise to do the water and sewer and so forth. And the township leaders passed an ordinance, and it was on the go. What it boiled down to was the initial proposal was carried out of 490 houses, basically 1.5 baths, 3 bedrooms, and a carport, selling for $14,500. Kendall Park took up roughly 245 acres along Route 27 to begin with, and 2 schools were in the works. It got a unanimous vote for the preliminary approval. Kendall was, at this time, and we're talking about the beginning of '56, purchasing land from various landowners. And a lot of people don't know that there were several landowners, not just 1 or 2. I'll run down a few of the names. You may not be familiar with them, but it would be interesting to know them. Fred Cole sold over 100 acres. Margaret Gogoli-Snensky sold 50 acres. Ralph Beekman sold close to 100 acres. The Whitlock family sold their acreage. George and Marguerite von Steen-Stursel sold over 100 acres. The Zeitz brothers sold 148 acres. Philip and Dorothy Mines sold a small acreage, and so on and so forth. So in other words, Herb Kendall had to purchase this land from a lot of landowners, not just 1 or 2. Most of that was done by the end of 1957. Okay. Now, Randy, I'm going on to indicate.
Uh-oh. Can we ask the people, everyone, to mute their mics so we don't get the feedback? So if you could just go to mute, that would be great. But try it again, Ed.
Okay. I'm up to April 24th, 1956 with the township meetings. This was attended by Mr. Kendall Willens, also Mr. Cady and David Savage. And one of the roads was named after David Savage, who was the architect. The promise was to have the street 60 feet wide and at the narrowest 50 feet wide. They were also supposed to be paved. And in some cases, that was a long time coming because one of the main complaints from the pioneers was the mud and the muddy roads and so forth. Sidewalks were supposed to be 4 feet wide. On December 1956, there was approval of the first 90 homes and the exhibit houses. The complete plan then was 490 homes in 4 different sections. There was no occupation until January of '57. Okay. Now things sort of heated up in +57. In May of '57, Mr. Kendall's plans were for 700 plus 300 lots. So that would get up to 1,000. This is what he was aiming for. Mayor Schaub at the time was against so many houses. He and other township leaders said that they couldn't handle the growth. 72 lots were approved at this initial time. In May 20th, 1957, the planning board gave final approval to the KP, the Kendall Park sections. There was 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. And also the naming of several of the roads, Stanworth, Palmer, Blair, Pine, and so forth, and Kendall Road, of course. On September 1957, there was a request for 1,000 homes, plus the schools, plus recreation areas, and a promise of a shopping center. There were more objections than there were those in favor attending the meetings, and the proposal also included a demand for a high school. Mayor Schaub was quoted as saying the Kendall Park houses cannot pay full cost of education in the community. And he was very concerned about the difficulty of integrating the new residents into the community. This, of course, caused much friction and debate. And the township denied the application at that time for that many homes. Now, Herb Kendall had to go to court to get his way, and they filed suit against the township. November 16, 1957, Judge Edward J. Knight wards J. Schuyler Huff, the South Brunswick Township attorney, that denying Herb Kendall's applications on economic grounds won't stand up. And therefore, Kendall won his case. It went to the Superior Court. He got preliminary approval from the planning board for now 921 houses. The stipulation was no more than 307 homes could be built per year. The time schedule was 1958 to 1960. And also thrown in was that New Road and Sand Hills Road must be completely paved. And Kendall must promise to build no more than 1,437 homes and additional school construction if necessary. Okay, so that gives you the background. And Randy, I don't know where you are with the pictures, but tell me where you are so I know what to do.
Well, right now I just have the Kendall Park homeowners guide up that tells them how to take care of their new home and everything that they'll need to do to keep it in good shape for years to come, things like that. So it's just a letter, the Kendall Park homeowners guide, and the slide after that I'm switching to now talks about 3 years later and 1,135 homes later, how Kendall Park is a city in suburbia. And it talks about on the slide how the average family comes from the New York metropolitan area, and they're accountants, lawyers, doctors, engineers, a lot different from the normal South Brunswick or traditional South Brunswick families.
All right. Okay. Now what I can do is, as you're showing the pictures, I have quotes from the pioneers, the first people to come to live in Kendall Park.
Okay.
And I have Gene Rioch's quote. Do you want me to go through with that?
Yeah, well, let me go through these other slides here. I got the one I just mentioned, and there's another advertisement. They're kind of cute advertisements about how you have to go in for a sales recommendation program. And I have the quotes coming up here too. So let me catch up a little bit here. And I had the aerial shot now of Kendall Park, and then that big aerial shot. And then after that, we're going to start with the quotes.
Okay. And Randy, what I would suggest, since we have so many people involved, if they want to step in with a question or a comment, that's fine.
Yeah, if sure, you can ask, or you can type it in, and I could read it out from if you type it into the chat box. So either way
Okay.
works. Yeah. So right now I just had the aerial shot of Kendall Park.
Okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and read a quote.
Sure.
Okay, this is from Jean Riak. My husband and I were among the first invaders, having been the 13th family to move into that housing development, known for its creator as Kendall Park. In February of 1957, we moved into this oasis in a sea of frozen mud, as though we were pioneering on an Arctic settlement. There were no paved roads, driveways, or sidewalks. That was one of the first responses of coming to live in Kendall Park.
Okay.
Okay, I have another quote. This is a comment about the houses themselves. Herbert Kendall and his wife Elaine had created light and airy homes with great window areas and sliding glass doors across the back of each house, and rooms that flowed easily into one another. So this, of course, was a good selling point for the houses.
Yeah, right now I have up this great picture from Don Stern he shared with us years ago. It's a 25 Berwick Road from 1957, and they're actually framing the house out. So this is Kendall Park, you know, with the actual framing of the house, and the 1950 style car right there on a dirty road. So, I mean, this is the way when they talk about being in a lot of mud, you can see it there, and all the farms in the background. Looks like a barn back there. So I love this picture though.
Okay, here's another quote. The early community was an outpost in the wilderness and a little piece of heaven at the same time. The roads were horrendous and there was mud everywhere. You could take Route 27 and drive to the heart of North Brunswick and not hit one traffic light. That was a quote from Mildred Auerbach.
Yeah, and there's another slide I have here of 217 Kendall, and there's no road visible. I guess it might be under the dirt, but it just looks like piles of dirt and another 50 style car. So yeah, it's just the very beginning. I imagine this is 57 too.
Right. Well, you can imagine there were most of the people who came to Kendall Park initially were from urban areas.
Right.
New York City in particular, and it must have been quite a jolt to come from that area into the Kendall Park area, especially with the roads, the condition that they were in. I have another quote for you, Randy, if you're ready.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Remember we mentioned about the veterans. This is a quote about them and their payment, what they had to do to get a house. You have to remember our time in history. World War II was over, and most of our husbands were veterans anxious to throw themselves into family life, child rearing, and the home. That's a quote from Arlene DeSena. In 1956, I went into the main office, picked out my house from the developer's floor plans and put a $25 deposit on my $12,999 home. That's a quote from Phyllis Schultz.
Okay, just showing some of the pictures in the background, the terms chart from the Nassau and the Imperial. So the sale price is $13,490, and then the down payment is $290. So it's interesting to see these things, you know, how little they cost when they first were in. And the advertisements are all, they're pretty good ads. I like the layout and everything.
Right, I have a quote, when they had the reunion of the first families and friends of Kendall Park in August of 1998. And they were quoting from an advertisement. This was read by Don Stern. I noticed you mentioned that name before. And Don Stern said, "Notice the tremendous depth and size of this ranch. Its clean lines, the beautiful brick front, aesthetically pure, a place of rolling green hills that slope down to quiet valleys, the nearest shopping center, and one of the most beautiful ever designed is right in Kendall Park." And he goes on to say, according to the advertisement, "Community is not only convenient, it is downright luxurious." And then Don commented on his own, "They forgot to tell us that cows were grazing on those rolling hills. The stench of cow manure was trapped in the air as far as the shopping center, and it wasn't even built yet."
Yeah, and the slot I have up here right now, it's funny because it says 10 minutes to New Brunswick, 25 to Newark, and 40 to Penn Station. So back in those days, it took 40 minutes to get to Penn Station. So, you know, you can see how far we've come in those years, right?
Yeah. Okay, and then I have a quote. It does contain something about this anti-Kendall Park feeling that was in South Brunswick during these years. And this is a quote that involves Joe Spataro, who was a former township mayor. "This was a nice, sleepy community where everyone knew everyone. People felt invaded because of the size of the project. We were accustomed to cows, chickens, potato farms. It scared people. We didn't know what kind of effect it would have." And then he admits, "It turned out to be positive. A lot of good people have come to the community. It forced us to do many things like build a high school, but it was a real shock at first." That was according to Joe Spataro. So things did work out. It was traumatic in the beginning, but things did work out.
So I'm just working my way through some of the slides, the advertisements, and you know how it says modern new elementary school built on grounds, and all the ads. It's like Madison Avenue ads that they had during the time, but they're pretty slick. They're pretty nice. And some more of the houses. And we could go back to these if people have questions about them. You know, if they want to see if they live in one of these houses, if anyone lives in the Nassau and they'd like to have one of these, we can I can send it over to them. I just have an interesting ad from the South Brunswick Central Post, and it's a kind of a creepy looking Santa, but they said even on Mother's Day it's fun to play Santa. So when you go home hunting with your friends, you can drive through Greenbrook. So these are just some of the ads that I had found in the Central Post that were interesting. This is from the 60s. And now I have the shots of the Kendall Park Shopping Center. This looks like 60s or maybe even 70s. And when the rink opened up. Hey, does anyone know when the rink opened up? I had this picture. We have it in a file, and it says it opens on October 27th. But I don't know the date. Does anyone know the date? The year?
Randy, my guess would be when the shopping center was opened up, that's when the rink opened up.
No.
No?
No.
When was it?
Before, after, because the bowling alley was there.
Okay.
That's correct. There was a bowling alley first.
Oh, yes, I bowled in it every week.
And I remember as a kid going to some of that, and then it turned into a roller rink.
Now, do you know about which year that is? Approximately what year that was?
I moved in 61, so it was after that.
Yeah,
It'd be late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah,
I had a birthday party, I think, when I was 12, and that would have been 72.
Okay. Yeah, I see the cars over here. They look like maybe late 60s, the cars over here. It's kind of hard to tell. Okay, so that's good. I can, at least we'll know this is the late 60s.
We had bowling parties every day, every Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there was, what was the nearest rink outside of Kendall Park roller rink?
Don't know.
Yeah.
You'd have to go to the cities. Trenton probably had one. I don't think New Brunswick ever had one, but I think the closest one was probably Trenton.
Yeah, it says here, Elizabeth, Trenton, and Bayonne. Yeah,
Yeah.
this company, yeah.
You know what's interesting? If you read the article about the dress code,
It's right here? You're reading it right off the screen?
yeah, in the article, family sport, the women could only wear certain, will be allowed to wear slacks, but not
Yeah.
tight. No dungarees. Boys with fancy haircuts won't be admitted. So it's really, yeah, they
What's the
should find
fancy
out
haircut?
today.
Dungarees. I haven't heard someone say dungarees in a long time. Fancy haircuts. Wow.
No
Is
thin
that for
top.
boys? Randy, is that for boys?
Yeah, no fancy haircuts for boys. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I don't
back
know.
in those days, it was probably the pompadour.
Pompadour? Okay. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like long hair, hippie
And
thing.
and it looks like the bowling alley had a liquor license, but they didn't secure it for the rink.
Yeah, it said skin type. Women will be allowed to wear slacks for comfort, but the skin tight type will be prohibited. So yeah, so there you go. So what else do we have here? I have a picture of, let's see, it's coming up next here. Well, this is the food town. This looks like late 60s. I don't know. This might be early 70s too. You can kind of, the prices, bananas 2 for 25 cents.
That might be like mid 70s because it was food fair first.
Okay, so it's the mid 70s. Yeah, I guess that's like what is this? Is a Ford right here, right? Yeah, I guess it is the mid 70s.
That's a Ford, yeah.
Unfortunately, these pictures weren't dated. They're great, but I don't know the date on these.
We had a hardware store.
Which kind of store?
Hardware, Delta Hardware.
That's coming up. That's coming up.
Best place to go for parts for Kendall Park.
Absolutely.
Someone asked if I had pictures of, they just came into the meeting. They wanted to know if I had pictures of Kendall Park as it was being built or right before. And I did have those earlier in the meeting. And if people are interested in getting a recording of this, if they missed it, I mean, I have a couple people I've already had they told me they couldn't make it. I'll send them the recording later in the week. But if anybody wants a recording of this for some other part, or if they're looking for a picture or anything like that, or any of the ads, I can send them because I have them all digitized. So if anyone's interested in getting these things, so that they can have them, you know, some of the ads for themselves, they're pretty nice. They look pretty nice. So you can just email me and let me know.
Yeah, Randy, I have 2 more quotes.
Okay.
And one is from Jerry Fagan, and you wanted to mention Don Fagan, right?
That's really Dan.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
gonna talk to a little bit about Don Fagan when you get up to that part. Just you know, briefly about who he was and you know what the time he spent here. So which part do you want to do now?
Well, I wanted to finish up with 2 quotes, one from Mr. Kendall, and then one from Jerry Fagan. And that'll finish with my notes. And then, you know, I can turn it over to you if you want to talk about Don Fagan and all that.
Okay. I just got a request from someone, and they are asking everyone if we could ask everyone to mute their microphones if they're not talking, because it's creating a little bit of feedback. And you know, I'm hearing it here a little bit, but other people might hear it more. So if you're not actually speaking, if you could just mute your mic, it'll make it a lot easier for everyone. So okay, Ed, you can take it away.
Okay, this one I'll finish up, and this is Herb Kendall's initial idea, and probably where he got the idea from. He was a land developer, and he had more than just Kendall Park as his projects. But he was quoted in the Central Post in 1998 as saying, "We had 16 million members of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard who came back from World War II, and within 10 years, all entitled to a GI loan as a reward for giving up time in the service. These people were the ones who started off all of these projects." He's talking about his land development projects. "Almost everybody in there was a veteran. We were able to give them a very nice house for very little money." And he was true to his word. That's the way Kendall Park turned out. South Brunswick seemed like a logical place for inexpensive housing. Now, Jerry Fagan was Herb Kendall's controller, and he was a former Kendall Park resident. Randy will tell you about his son, who went on to fame and fortune in the music industry. Jerry said, "People discovered that there was a place 60 miles from New York where they could have their kids grow up in the country. And it was between Princeton and New Brunswick, two university towns. A lot of people who came from New York were well educated and realized the benefits of a good education." And a side note there, that transferred to South Brunswick public schools being very good because they had a good base to start with, especially the high school. "We used to have lines at the sales office that stretched for at least 75 yards. People would be waiting with $40 for their down payment on a $12,000 home. It was an interesting time," so said Jerry Fagan. And that ends the quotes that I have for you, Randy.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna skip around a little bit. So I'm gonna go up here to talk about Don Fagan. We can go back a little bit. Don Fagan's probably the most famous former resident of Kendall Park. So the rumor has it that he wasn't happy here. He didn't like it here because he didn't like the suburban area and it didn't suit him well. But then again, you have to remember, he was a teenager here. And then from all of the experiences he had here, he went on to make millions of dollars and make multi-platinum records and be part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I don't think it was so bad for him. But there's a couple pictures of him here. Here's one from the yearbook. And then he was over here and part of the drama club. And he also wrote articles for the South Brunswick High School newspaper. So he was really active. He was active in school, but I think he really wanted to be in a place like New York. And he talked about it, and he actually was in, he made a couple of solo albums. One was called The Nightfly, and it's the back of the album that has a picture of a suburban house at night, and it's supposed to represent him staying up late at night listening to jazz and wishing he could be in New York City. So some of the anecdotes to this, somebody caught up with his parents actually. They're gone now, but they were talking to his parents in the early 2000s. And according to his parents, Jerry and Eleanor, he took an immediate liking to the family piano that his grandmother gave them. He gave them piano that he played in Kendall Park, and he would keep his sister up late at night playing the piano with his friends. They would practice, and he was trying to emulate his jazz heroes. So he would take the train from he would take the bus. Actually, it says here it must have been a bus service from Kendall Park to New York City. So he went up to see jazz greats like Charlie Mingus, Sonny Rollins, Thelonious Monk, and Miles Davis. So that's this Kendall always. Fagan always likes to talk about how he was unhappy here, but I think he was, from the pictures I've seen and how he's involved in school and everything, he looked like he did okay for himself. So that's he's got a kind of an acerbic kind of. He wasn't even happy about being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's just his personality, But that's what people say, like, oh, he hated it here. But I think a lot of it had to do with he was in the middle of suburbia and he was an angsty teenager, right? That's not too unusual. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about Fagan a little bit. People don't know who Steely Dan was, and Steely Dan's actually has a resurgence now. Like for me, at my age, I grew up with hearing Steely Dan a lot in the 70s and into the 80s. but it kind of fell out of fashion a little bit. But now a lot of the millennials, I'm reading about it, a lot of the millennials are listening to Steely Dan again. So there's a whole new resurgence of it. So yeah, pretty big influential band. And he was the founder, a co-founder, right from Kendall Park, right here in South Brunswick. So that's pretty notable. So that's my piece on Fagan, and we can go back.
Okay,
Yeah,
Randy, can I add a little bit to that?
Absolutely.
Okay. In reading and researching on Don Fagan and some other music acts that came out of Kendall Park, I have read some of the reviews, and in a couple of occasions, the writers actually referred to a thing called the Kendall Park Sound.
Oh, right.
And that put us on the map in the music industry with the Breedlove family and the Fagan family and a few other bands and singers and so forth. And so that in the music industry, there is an actual thing called the Kendall Park Sound. Unfortunately, nothing came of it of late. So we need a resurgence of that, just like you were talking about a resurgence and interest in his music. It would be interesting to see some of the young people come out with some music that would again recreate that Kendall Park sound. That would be pretty interesting.
Oh, I just read it. A comment here. It said that Fagan said that in a recent interview, he was okay with South Brunswick. He just had issues with Bard College. So, yeah, so maybe it was overstated how much he was unhappy here. Because the pictures I see him, he looks like he's doing okay. He looks like a well-adjusted kid. But yeah, so that's there you talk about, there are the Fagans. So it's pretty interesting that, the other thing too about Fagan, his father, Jerry, was one of the people that helped found the, what's the name of the, I'm sorry here, I have to look over my notes here. Yeah, Jerry helped found Kendall Park's congregation of Beth Shalom in 1961. And Donald was actually the first person to be have his bar mitzvah there. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, it's no longer, well, it's there. It's now, it's a daycare center, I think, or it's like a Goddard school or a school for young kids. So the building still exists, but it's no longer the Beth congregation Beth Shalom. So yeah, he was the first one to have his bar mitzvah there. So Steely Dan, go Steely Dan. And then some of the other, I have a picture here, and just a quote. I mean, I included the Kendall Park Fire Company. I know this picture isn't the one, this isn't the original building, but I have here how sold, he donated a lot, Kendall donated a lot for the future first aid squad, for Kendall Park first aid squad. So, that's another thing. They were supposed to put in another 200-seat auditorium, and I don't think that ever happened. But yeah, the building got dedicated originally in May 8th, 1965. And then this is a picture of Dick. I have this great photo that I had in the archives, and his name is Dick Wagner. He was the chief of the Kendall Park Fire Company in 1980. Does anybody remember this guy, Wagner?
Actually, I do, because I was volunteering at the first aid squad at that time.
Oh yeah? Okay,
Yep.
so you actually worked with him.
Yep.
And what was your name again?
Jyotsna Agarwal.
Okay, so you actually knew this guy. That's interesting.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because the picture is so great, and I looked around and find the quote from him. So yeah, this is and then another thing too. I don't know if people realize that their Kendall Park News was actually a little newsletter that people started because the people that moved into Kendall Park wanted to have their own paper. So they got the Kendall Park News going, and it kind of turned into as a precursor to the South Brunswick Post. So there was a lot of motivation, a lot of gumption in the community back then to get things moving. And I actually had this digitized. If you ever want to look at it, you could actually look at the old issues of it. That's what this is. So yeah, we had them all digitized. So yeah. So Kendall Park was the first community. Was it, Ed, was it the first planned community, or were there any others? It's the biggest one, I know that, but were there other communities in the township that were planned?
For the township?
Yeah.
No, Kendall Park was the new community. Everything else was established, rural, hamlet, village type of setup.
Okay.
So Kendall Park was the only one, but as I said, Herb Kendall had several developments, New Jersey and Pennsylvania, I believe he was there too.
Okay.
And there were several around at the time that were being built, mainly because of the veterans, World War II. So Kendall Park was not the only one, but it was the only one in South Brunswick.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was something earlier. I knew it was the biggest one. So yeah, so that's it for the presentation. Does anybody have any reminiscences of things that they remember from Kendall Park from their days?
Randy, one point
Sure.
about another person of note that lived in Kendall Park, Anna
Okay.
Quindlen, the novelist. She graduated from South Brunswick High School in 1970, and her family lived in Kendall Park for at least a couple of years.
Oh, I didn't know she lived in Kendall Park.
There's a quote that I have here, which says, "My family lived in Kendall Park and then in Brunswick Acres, and I remember vividly writing a poem lamenting the extent to which all the houses looked exactly the same. I think it ran in the literary magazine. I was a very bad poet."
Oh, so there's another person
Yeah.
so she's another person that wasn't completely enamored with it, right?
Yeah, sounds like it.
And Randy, in 1970, Brunswick Acres was built with 500 homes. And that added to the complexion change for the whole township. The farmers were then out and the city slickers from Philly and New York took over.
Yeah.
Randy?
Yes.
Randy, wasn't that famous sculptor George Siegel from Kendall Park, or am I wrong?
No.
No, he wasn't. Oh, where was, I thought he had a chicken farm or something there. I
He
don't-
had a chicken farm out in Dayton, I believe.
Oh, isn't that, well, that's my town. Okay, I didn't know that. All
He
right.
was off of Davidson's Mill Road.
Oh, yeah, okay, I know that, yes. And I used to take my kids to the roller rink all the time when we first moved here. They loved it. It was great.
In reference to the street names of Kendall Park, I was told by my parents that they were the last names of the compatriots that Herb had served with in the military. Is that correct?
Yes, several of them, not all of them, but several of the names are from that origin, and also people he knew and people he worked with, such as Savage. Some people could look at it, oh, Savage Road, that must mean early primitive or something, but no, it was a person's last name. So yeah, he did use a lot of people's surnames for the names of the roads.
Very interesting.
Yeah, my parents had a picture taken when Mr. Kendall came by the house after they had moved in. We were one of the original owners back in, I guess, the late 50s. I was born in 60s, so it's interesting to see all these pictures. I appreciate it a lot.
Sure, but you didn't say that you had a picture of Kendall, though, did you?
One of my siblings has that picture. I'll have to track it down.
If you ever track it down, I'd love to have a digital copy of it. That would be fantastic, because we don't have one in the archives and I can't find one anywhere. I was looking for one for the presentation and I just could not find one.
Yeah, I'll have to check with a couple of my siblings and see who has it.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, I heard he was a psychology major. I remember reading something about it. He goes, yeah, and me, I was a psychology major. How I ended up doing this, I don't know. But I think I read that about him.
Yeah, he may have been. Interesting stories about him out there, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, Randy, we do need biographical information on Herb Kendall. We do not have much.
Not too much.
We have a lot of information on what he did as far as Kendall Park is concerned, but as far as the man is concerned, we don't have much.
yeah, that's pretty much our presentation. But I had said before, if anyone wanted any of the pictures, they could email me. But I saw some in the chat. I can't really respond to the chat. I can't grab those things out of the chat box. But you have my email, and if anybody's interested in any of these pictures, just email me, and I can take them right from the presentation and share them with you.
Randy, it's John. Was this
Hey, John.
the first large-scale development in South Brunswick? Obviously Brunswick Acres and Wynwood and Whispering Woods and others come later. But was Kendall Park one of the first
As far as
large developments?
I don't know. I had to defer to Ed on that one.
Randy, we already covered that. Kendall Park was the first development that made the transition from South Brunswick being a rural community to a suburban community. It was the first. That's why the people who settled here first in Kendall Park were nicknamed pioneers. They were the first to live here and develop the fine reputation that Kendall Park turned into. It could have gone the other way, but it did not. And so the people who lived in Kendall Park eventually were accepted by the people that were already here. Those who were comfortable living in a rural community. All it took was the number of people and the transportation. Once the transportation routes were in place, and they basically were already there, Route 1, Route 27, it was a no-brainer because the people moving into Kendall Park could commute to the urban centers where most of them had their jobs anyway. So, yeah, Kendall Park was the first development in South Brunswick Township.
Ed?
Yeah.
Kendall also, he built in Sayreville in the Laurel Park section behind the high school before he did Kendall Park.
Right. I knew that he had some development ideas. I think he had something going on in Princeton too, but I'm not sure exactly where.
The houses had wallpaper. I mean, there were some things that we wouldn't even think of putting in houses at this point, just for cost, but it was an amazing situation. The Kendall Park house, the Sayreville houses went for $11,000. My dad was a vet, World War II. They only had to put down $1,000. And when I think about it, $11,000, the cost of their house was what I put down on the first house I built in '76.
That was your down payment.
Down payment, yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, the guy was in the right place at the right time. Kendall had the right idea. He picked the right spot, and the price was right. And that made for Kendall Park being a success. It could have been a failure, but it was a great success.
I was surprised that the vets you're talking about are World War II vets, where this is like 12 years after the war. I thought they'd be mostly like younger Korean War vets at the time. That's just my observation.
Yeah, of course, yeah. There were Korean vets involved in this too, but you got to keep in mind that these were people that were starting families or had already started families and were looking for a place to live and coming from basically the urban areas. And Herb Kendall had the idea based on the GI Bill and so forth and the World War II veterans. I mean, that's the kernel of where his idea came from. And he just had to find the place to put his development and to get these people to live there. So I think that's why the emphasis is on the World War II. But yeah, we understand that the Korean War vets were also involved in this too.
And most families started out with apartments. They didn't go straight into a house until there were 2 or 3 kids.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm saying that the Korean vets would be a much younger bunch, or I wouldn't say much, but a younger bunch than the World War II vets. You're talking about a gap in years there. Not that great, but enough of a gap where the World War II vets were in need of making a move and could afford to make the move. The Korean War vets were not yet getting established. They were still finding themselves. So I think the emphasis here is on the World War II vet and Kendall Park. That was the main deal there.
Oh, I got you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that next month's meeting, we're going to try to do a live meeting here at the library. We're going to have the Deep Search Metal Detecting Club and come in, and I believe where they're going to come. I still have to work out some of the details, but they're going to come in and show some of the treasures they found with their metal detectors. You know, it's like history beneath your feet, as someone once said. So we can have a live presentation, and it might be partly outdoors in the lot next door to show how it works, and we might come back into the library, into the main meeting room. It's pretty well spaced out. It'll be a first time we had a live meeting since February of 2020. So it'd be nice if to see people, you know, face to face again, or I might have a mask on, but at least we'll be in the same room. So but stay tuned for that, because I'll send out some notifications about that. So that'll be in May.
Okay, and Randy, we should mention that progress is being made on the new South Brunswick historical calendar, which we're aiming to start. It'll be on sale. What we're saying, September of this year.
We're shooting for September, yeah.
Right.
And I got some
2023 calendar.
And I got some people's suggestions, and just thank you for that, for the people that sent in. So yeah, we're gonna make we'll round up the 13 pictures, and hopefully have that done for sale, like we said, in September, if everything goes right.
Okay.
So that's it for the Kendall Park retrospective. If anybody has anything they want to add, or they can email me and we can find out more about it. But yeah, does anybody else have any kind of anything they'd like to add?
We just came across something about Herb Kendall, which is the obituary of his wife.
Oh,
and
yeah?
It talks about what happened after he left New Jersey. Apparently, he may still be alive in
like
California.
100. He'd be almost 100.
Yeah, he would be almost 100. Apparently, his wife died in 2019, and he was still alive at that point.
Wow. I didn't expect that.
Yeah. I'll send you the reference to this.
Yeah, send that over. Thank you.
Yeah, apparently he also developed Twin Rivers.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a real plant community over there.
Yeah.
If it's the same guy.
Yeah, well, we'll send you the information. You can evaluate it.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you for that. Ed, do you have any kind of closing notes or anything you'd like to say?
No, I just want to compliment you on a good job or a great job with the visuals. And I really am looking forward to a live meeting because technology always gets in my way. And I like the face-to-face live meeting much better than what we have been doing during the COVID thing. So I'm excited about that. And I thank you for a job well done on the Zoom conferences.
Yeah, well, you too, buddy. All right, well,
I'll still be rubbing sticks together and starting fires wherever I can, and dealing basically with the prehistoric times in South Brunswick, and maybe I'll get up to colonial times eventually. But it's been a great trip, a great ride so far.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun. Well, thank you everybody for coming out, and
Yeah,
we
it
hope
was
to see you
great.
next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
You.
All right,
Good night.
Everybody.
Good night.
Good night.